I will explain my rebuttals I am explaining my arguments. But in the beginning, this motion was put in place in order to equalize men and women in terms of safety and self-defense. By allowing only women to use guns, this motion aims to increase the safety of women. But I would argue that it would have the opposite effect, where women would have way too much power. I'm not talking in terms of gender equality, but I'm talking in terms of societal safety. By allowing only women to carry and use firearms, they will at some point abuse their power. It is inevitable. And why and how, you might ask? I will explain it in my arguments and rebuttals shortly. Firstly, my first argument is that because women act and think emotionally, it would make a hostile environment. They would act in accordingly to their emotions and would likely not make logical decisions in a split second scenario. Even though the proposition said that women would be given gun training and other stuff like that, it wouldn't guarantee that women or anyone would be able to act accordingly in a split second decision. I will give an example in terms of a bank robbery. In a bank robbery, if let's say there are four robbers, a, a woman, any, if it's a law enforcement, they are generally given two options. The first one is a lethal option, in which they would dispose of their threat immediately or as swiftly as possible. The second one is a more secure and a little bit non-lethal, and in which a law enforcement would secure the civilians first, prioritizing on the civilian safety instead of disposing of the threat. But again, in this motion, it would allow only women to carry guns, and in this motion, any woman can carry guns, whether it be a mom, a schoolgirl, or anything like that. At least if they fit the qualifications needed as the government stated, then they would be able to carry a gun. This won't be a healthy or a safe scenario. Why would that be? Because women or anyone in a split second, in a life or death situation, they won't be able to think straight unless they are law enforcement or a former military that are trained to make split second decisions every single time. They won't be able to make logical decisions or better decisions in which they prioritize the amount of people that are safe and secure. They would only act emotionally and just maybe instinctively reach out for a firearm and then shoot the robbers. This would make the other robbers shoot them and also other civilians that are innocent, that are not at the moment not in much harm. And even how would the government give these training lessons? Would they be mandatory or not? And because the motion said that it would only allow and not mandate, and also the proposition saying that generally not all women would want to carry a gun, this would make the motion seem redundant, don't you think? Because this motion, the original aim for this motion is to equalize or to give women a fair chance in terms of self-defense against men or against any type of threat. But if in a scenario which women choose to not use that opportunity, they will also just be as bad as they were before this motion even began. And again, like I said, because anyone cannot act in a split second decision situation in accordingly to logical senses, it would only cause to more crime or more victims, more casualties. My second argument is that it will lead to inequality due to only allowing women to carry firearms. It would not equalize men and women, but it would only tip the scales in favor of women to be the dominant one in society. And because women act emotionally, this would lead to an overuse of lethal weapons, when in reality non-lethals would suffice. in a in a in a situation that where in which the life of a person is not uh, is not in threatened, is not uh, when in a situation where it's not in a non-life or death situation, non-lethals non-lethals should suffice. In the non-lethals I'm saying is that pepper spray or maybe a taser that don't cause that much, or that does not cause long lasting effects, unlike a gun. In terms of, let's say, a small convenience store robbery, a lethal, a super lethal gun wouldn't be would be overqualified. It would not be necessary in that type of situation, would it not? Pepper spray should be enough to just dispose or disarm the robber, and to then maybe call the police or any stuff like that. Guns would be too much in this type of situation. And again, in situations where it's a life or death scenario, police should be there, ladies and gentlemen. It should not be the decision to for a life to be spared or not should not be put in the hands of us civilians, whether it be women or not. It should be put in the hands of it should be put in the qualified hands of police enforcement or other semi-military people that are trained to trained to use firearms, trained to decide when to use lethal force or not. My second rebuttal is that power corrupts, and so just like allowing civilians to have firearms can cause crime, only allowing women to carry firearms would also lead to crime. And like the proposition said, if women commit crimes because of the allowance of gun usage, then the government would ban firearm uses altogether, whether it be for men or women. Well, wouldn't that make this motion redundant or useless? Like I said before, if women, because power corrupts, and having a literal tool to decide whether somebody lives or dies is insane amount of power, then that would corrupt anybody, whether it be man, women, non-binary, or whatever. Anyone would somehow be corrupted by that amount of power to choose whether a person lives or dies. Then the in the proposition speech, the government would ban these usage of firearms in both men and women. And again, this would make the motion seem redundant, don't you see? Women won't be allowed to self-defend, won't be able to do that, and just everything will be crap. That's all for me.